Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have now reached the final session of the day's proceedings. It is my pleasure to introduce to you your speakers for this session, titled Bunkering and the New Fuel Era. Mr. Simon Neo, he is the former chairman of the International Bunker Industry Association. Mr. Manoj Gupta, managing director of Lanka IOC, and Mr. Zafir Hashim, the Executive Vice President of John Keel's Transportation. I would now like to invite Mr. Simon Neo for the first presentation.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks the organizers for inviting me to this prestigious event. I'm quite surprised. I was very happy to see that attendance is very high. It's good. Good for the future of Sri Lanka maritime. All right, my name is Simon Neo. So I've been involved in bunkering for more than 3 decades. All right, from operation, sales, trading, buying. Okay, and I've been involved in the standardization of all the Singapore standardization, from SS600, SS524, 648 messroom meter standards. I'm also the ISO 13739 convener that sets the international bunkering procedures. Right? I also sit in the ISO 8217 committee. Right? So, before I start, I was asked to. Now, this is what my company does. Okay? So, I will not introduce too much. All right? And today, I was asked to speak on future bunker fuel, short and long term. What are the short term, what are the long term bunker fuel that affects the maritime industry? Now, I will touch a little bit on IMO regulation, impact on the industry, right? And at the end, I will also touch on compliance fuel and compliance, and also on top of that, I will add in some messroom meter, introduction of messroom meter. Okay. Now, reduction of sulfur on January 2020, IMO regulate all vessels cannot burn more than 0.5% sulfur. So that's when the start of the decarbonization happens. Okay? And then at that time, it was also announced that by 2030, IMO target carbon emission to be reduced by at least 50% based on 2008 emission. And by 2050, zero carbon. Okay? So that is what happened. Right? So when we say zero carbon, my first thing that came to my mind is, what will happen to fossil fuel? Because as of today, fossil fuel cannot meet zero carbon. So what will happen? Food for thought. All right. When we started off the 0.5% sulfur, we have an initial part. There's a lot of quality issue. Even I remember the case of Houston, whereby engine broke down because of blending, because of some sort of these chemicals involved. Why? Because majority of the crude oil at that time till today, majority of crude oil doesn't produce 0.5 or low sulfur. Probably only we're talking about sweet crude, right? Only sweet crude that has low sulfur. So a lot of the low sulfur fuel, marine fuel, is blended down to 0.5. So what's our blending component? Nobody knew. So we had a big quality issue that year. That Started off from Houston and it spread all the way to Singapore. But of course, it was very fast, it was blown over. Very fast, it was blown over and things settled down and then things just goes back to normal. Okay, until beginning of this year, Singapore had one big issue whereby Glencore blended fuel for low sulfur hits more than 200 vessels that complained of, not 200 vessels complaints of engine problem, but was the product, contaminated product was supplied to more than 200 vessels. And there was a huge complaint, and ultimately in Singapore, their bunker license was suspended for 2 months. Right? Again, it was resolved. All this can be resolved. But supply chain, initial, when we talk about the supply chain, where we can get the low sulfur, how many ports will be able to supply low sulfur and all that. But that was only for a short period, resolved. Scrubbers. I remember 2019, when I was in China, many shipbuilders are asking, hey, Simon, can we, scrubber will work. Then I asked them one question. Where are you going to dispose of the wastewater? Are you going to throw them to the sea? Through the scrubbing? But of course, I'm not saying that scrubber is no good, because still there are some ship owners who invested in scrubber, because why? Because of the ROI. Return on his investment is very short, cheap. Instead of, I invest in LNG, change my engine to LNG, it'll cost me 10 to 15 million US, one transformation, one change. So if I got 10 ships, 15 million US per ship, I got to spend 150 million US. Might as well have built 2 new ships. Okay? That was, those days, the thought was like that. Right? So many of them went to scrubbers. But again, scrubbers, many ports does not have disposal facilities, authorized disposal facilities. Okay? So, and it was only actually not too long back, a few weeks back, I saw a report that says water around the Scandinavian side is getting bad, quality is getting bad because of too much scrubbing. I don't know how true is that. Right? Now, again, HSFO, heavy sulfur fuel oil. Ship owners that install scrubbers, they have problem looking for 380 high sulfur. Not all ports carry. Not all ports carry. Right? Because when a bunker tanker carry HSFO, high sulfur fuel, if they want to change back to low sulfur fuel, they need to go for tank cleaning again. Who wants to pay for it? So these are all some of the logistical problems that we face in the initial part. Right? So coming forward and going forward, what sort of future fuels are we going to talk about? Just now I was quite happy to hear some of the speakers talking about biofuel, talking about methanol, green ammonia, green hydrogen. Yes, these are all the way forward. But how many ports will have it today if, say, 2 years down the road or 3 years down the road, I want to make changes to low sulfur. From low sulfur, I will change to methanol, or green hydrogen. How many ports in the world will have this product? Probably you can talk about methanol, yes, in Rotterdam. Singapore, you have a little bit of methanol. You have some biofuels, right? But the rest of the ports, are they ready for it? Many are still not ready for it, because you know why? Today I built a ship, okay? Lake Hill, sail, 2022 or 2023. I says I can sail for 20, 25 years. I still, no problem, I can still use biofuel, So why should I go and look so far? So this is the attitude of many, many ship owners. Let's look at it 10 years down the road. Then we decide what sort of fuel we want. So these are some of the, because many ship owners, they look at, I invest now, where I can get this, where I can get that, the reviews, what is the quality and all that, right? So, FreshPoint. Even in FreshPoint, at ISO level, ISO 8217, till today we are still discussing for biofuel what are the specifications needed. We just come up with certain specs, okay? But unfortunately, I cannot disclose anything, though I've got the documents with me now. But by 2023 or 2024, the biofuel spec will be made available to the industry. Okay? So even in ISO, we are backdated. Today, you want people to burn biofuel. Where's my specification? There's no specification. So what happened in Singapore? We were prepared for it, and we came up with a WA200, which is a temporary specification for biofuel, up to B25. But internationally, I know there are some countries that are burning up to B50. Right? So specification is another issue. Where can we get the right spec? And of course, when we talk about biofuel, we talk about FAME, and then some even talk about FreshPoint. Okay? So like I say, avails of all this alternative fuel or greenhouse gas friendly fuel is a big headache today. For the next 5 years, it's still going to be a big mess, big headache also, because not every port will have it. This, in fact, just this year in March, I was moderating a panel in Singapore in a conference, and I was telling the audience, I said, look, all major bunker hubs will go into multi-fuel supply. That means, besides low sulfur fuel, low sulfur gas, they will also come in with biofuel. They will also be able to supply biofuel, methanol, we call it multi-fuel. But there again, bunker suppliers ask me, Simon, multi-fuel, how much should I allocate my bunker tanker? I've got 10 vessels. How much should I allocate? One vessel for methanol, one vessel for biofuel, 2 vessels for very low sulfur fuel? And guess what? I tell you today, nobody has the answer to that. So it is a logistical problem that bunker suppliers need to address by themselves, because they need to see what sort of fuel they want to move forward to, or what sort of customer they have, and what sort of customer they are going to do what. Like Maersk Line, Mitsui, they are looking at green methanol. COSCO just built more than 16 vessels. Again, methanol. And then how many is to, then LNG. How many vessels are burning LNG today? Right? So it's something, all these suppliers really need to adopt changes as fast as possible. Because like I say, by 2030, we want to reduce, IMO wants to reduce carbon emission by 50% based on 2008. And that is going to be a big challenge. Ships on the vessel side. So what should I do? My vessel engine, should I change it, change the engine to burn LNG? Or should I change it to burn
Recording in progress.
methanol? Or should I do a bit of changes to burn biofuel. So these are considerations that ship owners have to consider, and then when that's why for big fleet ship owners, for them it's easier because they have a lot of vessels, and then they are able to allocate how many to this, how many methanol, how many to, all the different type of alternative fuel that will be available. When a ship has multi-fuel, what sort of things are they going to look at? Can my engineers or my crew handle this multi-fuel or not? Multi-fuel, if I'm burning LNG, does my crew know how to handle LNG? Okay, product knowledge again. If I'm burning gas oil with methanol, does my crew know how to handle methanol? Because methanol can pose some health risks and safety concern, right? So do they know how to do it? Do they know? Or, some of them is just like, oh, methanol, I take it and drink it as alcohol. And the next moment, they just drop dead. All right? And that's what happened in Russia, Siberia. So, suppliers going to new fuel, how much will it cost me? LNG today hit through the roof, 4 figures per ton. How about biofuel? Biofuel is also today close to $1,000, when fuel oil is only about $600 to $700 per ton. All right? And how about ammonia, green hydrogen, and all that? Nobody knows the price, Again, crew on board a bunker tanker, on board a ship, do they know how to handle this type of fuel or not? Because health and safety concern. Okay? Cost of operation. Definitely will have to shoot up. So these are impacts that we will have to face when we go towards zero carbon, zero emission. Cost of shipping will go up because bunker fuel, today, operation cost of a ship, okay, some of them tell me it's about 30%, some of them tell me it's 50%. All right? So when you have 30%, 50% of a cost that is on the fuel oil to burn to move the ship, so if all these costs start to go up, our product become more expensive. Don't forget, besides that, when I burn methanol, I burn 1 ton of gas oil, I will probably need to burn 1.5 to 2 tons of methanol. Right? I burn 1 ton of gas oil, I may have to burn 2 tons of LNG to have the same propulsion. Okay? So cost is definitely big issue, going to be a big issue. Short-term fuels. Short-term fuel, today we are talking about, are we talking about 2030 short-term or 2050 short-term? 2050 is definitely a long-term fuel, because it's going to be zero emission. 2030, some says, oh, that's mid-term, not short-term. But to me, that's short-term. Because 2030 is to prepare you for 2050. All right? So based on IMO regulation, long-term goals will be to best not use fossil fuel. That means IMO is telling us, hey, 2050, let's cut all the fossil fuels. When we say all that, is the terminal ready for it? Ship owners ready for it? Bunker suppliers ready for it? Okay? Yes, you say 2050 is still a long way. Yeah, but infrastructures need to be built early and not wait until 2040, then I start building all this infrastructure. I tell you, it's going to be too late. Okay, too late. So short-term fuel that may not meet zero carbon, whilst long-term fuel are those that can meet zero emission. Short-term is, we talk about biofuel, LNG, methanol, etc. Does this mean fossil fuel will cease during the short term? No. My personal prediction is, fossil fuel will still last up to 2040. Right? That's when all the new ships comes in, they are ready to burn zero emission product. So that's why 2050 is definitely fossil fuel for bunkering, I think is gone. Okay? Presently, biofuel is catching on. Rotterdam, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. Okay? I'm not too sure about Fujairah, but it is catching on. Malaysia, they are burning B10 for gas oil. Indonesia, their own internal fleet sailing within their islands is burning up to B50, B70. Singapore, we allow up to B25. Okay? So, and the volume is catching up, is growing. Right? So, for biofuel, for ship owners, to buy biofuel is much, much easier. To procure biofuel is so much easier. Okay? Then algae are also being tested to develop into biofuel. And frankly, there's many others that have been tested. Ethanol is one of them. Sugar, yeah. Plant-based biofuel, right? LNG, why we say it's short-term? Because LNG actually derived from fossil fuel also. Concern is the methane slip, because methane is a gas, invisible gas that burns the ozone area. It burns a big hole in the ozone area on the Earth. So for LNG, we are damn worried, still very concerned about methane slip. But of course, there is the other LNG, which is a green LNG. All right, that can be a long-term solution. Right? Very low sulfur fuel oil is considered as short-term. Like I say, by even up to 2040, fossil fuel will still be around, but the usage will probably lesser. Methanol, conventional methanol, can be considered short-term, and it can also be looked at as a long-term. Because why? Methanol is petrochemical based, and one thing good about methanol is when I have a spillage, unlike fossil fuel, I got to fence up the whole ship, area around the sea, around the ship. But for methanol, when you have a spillage, goes into the sea, it disappears. Doesn't kill, it doesn't harm the environment, the ocean environment, the sea environment. So it is very clean, right? So like I said earlier, methanol, big concern is health and safety, how you handle the product. So long-term fuel. Long-term fuel, we have to discount fossil fuel by 2050, right? Because of zero carbon. So there are two types of hydrogen that people look at. One is green hydrogen, which is a considered zero carbon fuel, and blue hydrogen, which produces low carbon at a scale hard to calculate, hard to abate. Okay, because it's very, very low. Right? Of course, some of the consideration we need to look at is handling, safety, storage, and ultimately, it's the price. The price of hydrogen per ton basis. Ammonia is another good source, which today there are some ship owners are trying to go into ammonia, right? And there are already some bunker tankers being built in Korea to handle ammonia. As for ammonia, we really, and in fact, not only ammonia, even hydrogen, we need to relook at the infrastructure of the bunkering. Okay. Safety design of the bunker tankers is also key, very, very important in methanol, ammonia, hydrogen. All right? Then, of course, next is when all this becomes so expensive, we look to the government. Hey, can you help us for handout? Okay, so local government support or even collaboration and regulation will be key to the use of all this as bunkers, right? It's not just the handout, I'm just joking, because it's a regulating part. Government must have the resolve to regulate all this. Last but not least, prices of ammonia, not only ammonia, hydrogen, may not come cheap. Today, even if let's say, for example, methanol. Today, methanol is about 300 odd per ton. But that means if I burn 2 tons of methanol, it only costs me 600 plus. So I'm still within. Still cheap, still okay. You know? But when the demand from ship for all these products also comes in, you know, it will be, where's the supply? Because why? There's more demand really. Yeah? Green methanol, good source for long-term fuel. Yeah? And they also produce fuels, SOx and NOx. Right? Help meet environmental fuel regulation, improve air quality. Right? Disadvantage, like I say, I burn 1 ton of gas oil, I need to burn probably 2 tons of methanol. Right? So the rest is the same. Now, compliance. As we move to future fuels, we need to look at the compliance, because compliance is something that is very, very important. All right? Okay. We are also looking at, when it comes to digitalization, we are looking at EBDNs. That means when I deliver bunker to the ship, once the chief engineer signs the BDN, boom, the invoice goes out, not to the office, not to the cargo officers on board the ship, on board the bunker tanker, but the invoices will straight go out to the bunker buyer, ship owner, and the office. So less paperwork, less human interaction. Okay? And of course, when we talk about digitalization in bunkering, mass flow meter plays a major part. Mass flow meter plays a major part, yeah? Because during the pandemic, if Singapore does not have a mass flow meter, we will not be able to conduct contactless bunkering. That means no crew come to the bunker tanker, no crew from the bunker tanker go to the receiving vessel. Everything through mass flow meter only. Okay, because people build the trust. We build the trust through the standards. Yeah. So these are some of the things that when we move forward to future fuels, we really need to look at. I've mentioned many times, cost of operation. how are we going to reduce cost of operation? Through digitalization, technology, right? Use of again I say, use of technology, things like technology like MFM, for better quantity control, both from the terminal and also on the bunker tankers. Okay. So this is my contact details. If you guys want to contact me or ask me anything, yeah, by all means to send me an email or something. Yeah. Anyway, if you see all those photos that I post on are all taken by me, from the plane or from the seas, from tall buildings. Okay, thank you.